Hey, this is 20. Episode 20. It's unlike me to remember what fucking episode we're on. Here's why I know. It's because Dave fucked up. On 19.
Yeah.
And we're recording this, I don't know, many, many days after some grievous human error led to 19 not getting.
So second mistake. Second mistake.
Dave, you're here to do a toolbox talk to like help us know what you did wrong, right? Sure. So that we could.
Yeah, look, I think I wasn't set up for success by management. I think
what a fucking
this is the second time we've had to do this since your fucking cutwater incident, Ron, as well. every 5 episodes we have to publicly apologize for something. So look, I guess learnings are critical. So people make mistakes, blame fixes nothing, Ben.
I mean, I felt better.
Learning's vital, and
so fix something.
Yeah.
Podcast co-host response matters, boys.
That's some bullshit right there.
That's why we were really focused on ridicule. It does matter.
Yeah.
Got to maintain our culture. Yeah, you got it. Oh,
look at this Ohio State guy there.
The Ohio State.
Yep. Not everyone had to go there for 10 years to write a paper, Ron.
Not even a paper yet, is it? I mean, it's sort of.
I mean, there's paper there somewhere.
It's on paper, isn't
it? Sort of the scribblings of a weirdo. So
there's lots of like red yarn. It goes to the top.
Oh well,
there it is.
It's
always sunny is making a little little appearance here.
Oh, look at the magpie water bottle. Why don't I have one of them?
Well,
a water bottle?
Yeah.
Fucking Forge works. Look at that.
I'll give you one.
All right. Awesome.
You had to come to the office, Dave.
Yeah. I'll come pick it up when I pick up my
last time you were here.
When I pick up my skateboard decks. Yeah.
Yes. I said, do you want to go to the office? And you specifically said, I definitely don't want to go to the office. No water bottle.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, the skateboard decks are being held ransom.
Perfect.
Here, they'll be on the wall. It'll be fine.
Excellent.
What you been up to?
Who's behind you there, Dave?
Well, I went and chased down at your request, Ben. Authority 0. Seems to be some vocal supporters.
Why 0?
Some vocal supporters of the podcast have been added again. So yes, I thought lean into 0. Lean in. Let's just eliminate all injuries, fellas.
So like
lover of 0, Dave Proven.
Do you like 0 or do you like 0?
It's okay to love 0. It's not okay to love 0.
Yeah.
0 and I have a bit of a love-hate relationship. So,
yeah.
I mean, according to
I think our fan has a love-hate relationship. He doesn't love
it really wants to get closer to me, but it's bad for me, so I try to push it away a little bit.
Lots of 0 love.
Yeah.
So Authority 0, good band.
Yeah. Man,
it looks like he's got somebody I've never heard of.
So this one will be a little obscure.
Shocker.
But the band's called
Ron liked them before they were cool. I said Rob,
That's
but
not true.
I've got Rob Long on them.
I guess they were never cool, but so this is a band called Shai Hulud, which is not like the worm from Dune. It's actually a band, hardcore band out of Florida. Yeah.
Everything's hardcore in Florida.
Well, yeah. And depressing.
Jeez.
It's Ron's kind of music.
Big shout out to our Florida listeners. We love you guys.
Hardcore and depressing.
I'll get them some bath salts. They'll be
Way
fine.
to bring it home. Fucking bath salts. Good.
What do you got there, Ben?
I got off with their heads. up here,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is sort of alternatively hardcore, and then some acoustic stuff, which I skip past generally. I'm sure it's great.
I'm
Sure, it's
sure it's
great. Like that
fantastic.
guy in LA. Is that guy's name Frank Turner?
Oh,
I don't want
yeah.
to hurt
Yeah.
Frank's feelings. I'm sure he's great. It's a little light for me.
Little light. Bit like Nirvana
See, I
Unplugged, right?
like a good acoustic guitar. I didn't like that
It's like
guy.
a little, yeah, like an elevator music segue between bands. We have, and I know this is shocking to the, I mean, I don't know if we got 11 listeners after the letdown they had to endure last week.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have hung in there. I
Yeah.
wouldn't blame them.
5 days is unacceptable.
It was
Is
7.
Is
I
it
think it was
up
7.
now?
I think it was 7, Ron.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't get there.
Okay, so yeah, it's gonna
I'm
be
working on it. Yeah, no, I'm working on it.
I think it's been in Ben's court for about 24 hours. So from here on
Yeah,
out,
well,
it's
stunningly,
Ben's
I
fuck
had
up.
work to do.
Work?
Yeah, a little bit of it. Anyway, I was hanging up skateboards on the wall. It's shocking that we have not come up with a topic for the day. But I have an idea. I never get to suggest a topic, so I'm going to suggest that I suggest one, if
I
that's cool with you guys.
I think that I'm okay with that for now. I reserve the right to say it's a stupid idea, though.
Well, you might as well preface it. I mean, it is, and that's fine.
Tell us about this stupid idea, Ben.
Sure. It's exact. I was talking with a client, one of my favorite
Client.
clients of all time. Yeah, I know it sounds important. They're not a client anymore.
When
if
someone
that
called your
means anything.
lift, like when you
Thank you. Yep. It's Uber, okay?
Yeah,
It's
oh,
classy.
okay, fair enough.
No, look, I mean, these folks had been doing some really cool, um, what felt like transformative work in the organization. Things are going really well. And then they had a fatality, and a pretty gnarly fatality. And in a healthcare setting, right? That's a nut punch. I think probably in any setting, but they had really, really been working hard. And the question comes up, look, if all this work is making us a better, stronger, safer organization, why does this kind of shit still happen to good organizations? And I don't know, man. I think it's a question that gets tough to ask or to answer in a way that satisfies folks.
Mhm.
I wonder if that's worth talking about.
So is there a topic anywhere in our future?
Yeah, that's the topic. Why does shit happen to good people?
Okay. All right, cool.
Why do bad things happen to good organizations?
Mm.
Okay.
Other than because Dave is part of them.
Yeah. Well,
Old Zero lover.
yeah, yeah.
Well, when you say good,
Dave's doing surprisingly well, by the way, for having been, in Africa for a while, and then
was in
I mean, we used to talk about what we were doing.
Oh yeah,
I mean, we don't care anymore. But
yeah. I mean, do we have to pretend it still or no?
we might. Our listeners probably don't. But I think defining when you say good organizations, I think a good good starting point, happy accident, might be good and bad organizations. So I interpret from what you were saying there, Ben, was like a good organization is one that seemed to be investing, seemed to be doing the right things, seemed to be trying to make a difference in relation to safety, and shit happens. So is that what you're meaning by kind of a good organization?
yeah, I think. Well, I'm trying to echo sort of the way that people say that, right? Why do good things happen to bad people? People say in conversations sometimes. And I think that gets translated to organizations. So organizations that feel like they're doing meaningful work to improve safety. And then you get hit with some bad outcome, right? Something that changes that.
So can I maybe share and keen on both your perspectives on this? Doing these right things. One of the things that I've seen quite a bit moving around organizations that are doing transformational safety work is a whole bunch of discussion and a whole bunch of PowerPoints floating around in offices and executive meetings. And then when you talk to people on the ground and say, oh, so what's changed? They say nothing. We still do work the exact same way that we did 10 years ago. It's pretty much like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. What's this transformation you speak of? So, I think there's an incredible challenge in organizations, particularly the larger they get, in actually translating, intent at an executive level into meaningful change to work. Because if the work doesn't change, the risk doesn't change. If the risk doesn't change, the chance of an incident doesn't change. So I think that's a question that I always like to ask, which is, what's different for the people who are working with the hazards and risks every day? And a lot of times, nothing really yet, but but you want to see our PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I don't mean to say that that's the case here, but a lot of times I think sometimes we can think we're doing all the right things and not really having much impact.
Yeah, sure. And I don't think it's important to think about maybe one specific, I don't know, one specific example. I brought one up because it was sort of top of mind because someone brought it up recently. But, there are a lot of organizations and that it's all sorts of shades between, all right, nothing has really changed, or hey, things are starting to change, or actually it feels quite a bit better. And then we still had something that sort of took the wind out of the sails. And I think it's really, it's easy to sit down maybe in a room and say, hey, we have to sort of separate safety from just outcomes, because we do talk about that a lot, right? Safety isn't just about outcomes. And then you have a completely shit outcome. Even when people say, look, I think we've really been doing a lot better. And it's really hard to disentangle those things like in the middle of it, right? I think that's maybe the point. Hopefully that people are trying to make when they bring that up.
Yeah.
Is that it?
No,
That's the whole. Oh,
yeah, we're done. Thanks for listening. No, no, I think you're right. I mean, and that's the nuance and the messiness and the unsatisfying part of all of this, right? So like on the one hand, I think I don't know, I just feel a moral need even in myself just to say like, yeah, I mean, if we're not like making things better so that we don't have as many fatalities, like what are we doing? Like what the fuck are we even doing?
Sort of important.
But on the other hand, that doesn't mean necessarily that we're like, hey, that's how we should measure success and that 0 is a meaningful attainable goal. Because on the other hand,
yeah,
like
Dave,
I know I don't want to disagree with
much as you love it
over
much
here.
as you love it.
I know it's your lover, but but you know what I mean? Like, and I think to me, wrestling with that sort of paradox, if you will, or that tension is important, and like I don't know, part of the human side of safety that I think when we have that dichotomy of like, it's 0, no, it's not 0, I don't think adequately address that tension, in my opinion.
So it's mostly, and this is, this came up another time a while ago. It was some folks who were telling a story about having to talk with a board, right? And most organizations have got some board or executive group or whomever. None of them like having to give an interview or talk to a reporter in a newspaper or something about some horrible thing that happened. And in that case, it was actually one of the organizational leaders was also a pilot, was flying an aircraft or flying right seat in an aircraft that crashed. It absolutely destroyed the airplane. Really, really terrible injuries. So lucky that no one was killed, but life-changing injuries in this thing. And this is one of the guys who had really been at the front line, and I happen to know the folks that were in the airplane. And they're all saying, look, we are the folks out doing the work. We really do think what we've been doing over the last 2 years has been meaningful. We've identified a lot of things. We've changed things in the organization that make a whole lot more sense to the clinicians and to the aviators and the other people that are working. And it just takes it out of you, right? Like here's the guy that believes very strongly in it, who actually, and the folks in the back of the aircraft came out and afterward and said, "Look, we can't let this get us down." You're like, dude, you're in the hospital saying this, right? I think that's, I don't know, man. I feel like this gets to be a really academic discussion sometimes, and the reality for folks and organizations. And look, Dave, to your point, I get it, man. Not all there is an awful lot of that illusion at the leadership level that shit's changing, and it just isn't. But I think what's even worse is when the people that are most affected by it are going, dude, this is killer. It's
Yeah.
actually things are getting better. And then you just get the shit handed to you.
And I think one of the issues here is, people need to not be so fucking lazy, right? So this can
drink.
Well, obviously.
But this conflation of good safety management means no fatalities and fatalities means bad safety management is just a fucking it's not a sufficient explanation for complex high hazard systems, right? So one of the things that I'd say to practically to organizations is you can be a very, very good company when it comes to safety management and have 1, 2, 3, 4 fatalities. You could be a terrible company in relation to safety management and go 5 years fatality free. That's just the reality of how complex systems fail and all of the interactions. So one of the things that when I talk to organizations about strategy, that's really important is say, do not judge the success of your safety strategy or transformation program in any way based on the outcomes regarding fatalities or injuries. Because what companies do is they spend a lot of time planning their strategy. They start preparing to implement, and then they have a fatality and they swerve the fucking bus across the road, right? And they go, oh, better replan again. Better think about this some more. Then have another incident. Oh, better replan again. So they plan, and they never actually do anything. So, I think it's really important for whatever it is you're trying to improve, you take the time and effort to work out how you are going to evaluate its success. So if I'm trying to improve safety leadership, I actually need to evaluate, is my safety leadership improving? Whether I have a fatality means nothing on the effectiveness of my safety leadership program, and so I think that's the challenge here, is that we just are lazy with our good safety strategy equals no bad things, and bad things equals not a good safety strategy, and it's a hard conversation with the board, but it's a necessary
it's a really hard conversation because if you lose $3 billion for the company and somebody says, hey, maybe fix the fucking strategy, dude, we're bleeding, right? Like that's a thing that matters. And someone's gonna have to answer. Well, someone or someone's has to answer for those fatalities, injuries, financial losses, whatever. I think that is, and I don't know if I don't know if you tie this back to that concept of capacity, right? Because I think people get confused when among the three of us, we say safety capacity, and it makes sense. I think we know what we're talking about. And then you say it to people that just have to fucking go to work every day, and they're like, okay, dude, cool. You should make a glass and put it on the merch site.
Hey-o.
It is, by the way, in case you want to buy one. It's really nice.
PunkRockSafetyMerch.com.
PunkRockSafetyMerch.com. I love that for us. But that is sort of it, right? And does it come back to like the frustration with trying to pin down what capacity is, or does it, at the end of the day, there's nothing in there that I disagree with, Dave. But I think someone's going to be unsatisfied. Someone somewhere's going to be unsatisfied with this fatality has nothing to do with whether our safety leadership is working. So we've got to close that gap. And I think that's what's tough for people is being able to break down, quote, safety into some separate parts. which I think is okay, right? We don't just say business and it's all encompassing of the organization.
Exactly right. Yeah. Um,
For me, I think one of the things that I think is easy to conflate in all of this and how we're talking about it is the idea that the magnitude of the outcome is an indication of the magnitude of the failure of the system, right? Because like if we have a fatality, the reaction that we're talking about is a wholesale change in how we manage safety. But that's not necessarily how failures work, right? The magnitude of the outcome could be the result of very minor, to use Diane Vaughn's words, like banal things, like boring shit that just happened, very small, and doesn't mean we don't need to, obviously that's an outcome we didn't want. We need to go in and do something about it, but it doesn't mean that we were way the fuck off track.
just like a few doors on a few planes.
Just a few bolts.
Ron likes the word banal, by the way, because anal makes up most of it. It's hard to stay away from.
It's just a happy coincidence, my
You
friends.
got those Christmas sweaters by the box, baby.
Ron Lana Gant.
Don't have Christmas bottoms.
But I think so. There's a piece here. What if all organizations are just as fucked as each other, right? And so, like, it's interesting that when we see
and you're Charles Perrault and you're just like, look, man, shit happens. Sorry, brother.
It's a bit of a failures of foresight, right? So if you look at, BP before a few of those events, they had, good safety audits and good safety culture reports. And then in hindsight, things look, problematic. And then same with, Boeing and these companies, NASA, all these companies, it's fine. When you go searching, what you look for is what you find. And I think if you look, trying to manage large, messy, complex, high hazard, socio-technical systems, like it's a bit like when we had Colette on the pod and said, we shouldn't be surprised when these things happen. We should be more surprised when they don't happen. Like
when we make it through a fucking day.
Yeah. Like I was talking to someone yesterday who had, 50 or 60 high hazard operations around the world, 100, 200,000 people working, and they had like one event. And I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't publicly go around claiming victory at the moment, but fuck, man, like of all the stuff that could have gone wrong, I'd be more curious about why not more stuff went wrong. So I mean, it's not an answer for the zero lovers, and it's not necessarily an answer for boards, but there's also at risk of really offending a lot of, there's perspective here, right? Like we get caught up over one fatality at work, but we're perfectly happy with 1 in 10,000 of the population dying every year in a road accident, right?
Yeah.
It depends on who.
It depends on the drunks and it's like
one is always
it's Ron. It's like it depends on who. That's like it sounds like the NRO. 30,000 people died through the government. Yeah, but it depends on. They weren't all little school kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That failure of foresight thing, is that I hadn't read this for a while, and Dave, you read a lot of papers and understand big words, so you can correct me. But I think Richard Cook talks about, and I'm going to fuck this up, but it's sort of that knowing when you're at the edge, right? So organizations that are more adaptable and more flexible, less brittle by nature of that, I guess, are the ones that sort of know when to kind of freak out and get a little more creative and work on foresight a little bit. Is that connected, or am I just making that shit up? And was that Richard Cook? I think we can assume that it sounds like Richard Cook.
I think if I'm and Dave, you correct me if you have a different perspective. Like if I understand what you're saying, there was a paper that he wrote with Jens Rasmussen about Rasmussen's kind of dynamic risk model, where it's called Going Solid.
Yeah.
Where like
just an awesome name for something.
Yeah,
I know, right? But where he did talk about
just like Brownian movement, by the way, which is featured in that.
It is absolutely
to say.
Yeah. Well, never mind. I'm not going to go down that path.
Yeah. We've done it once
Like
before on the podcast.
you know that they were laughing about that at some point. They're like, we should put Brownian movement in here.
I kind of
And
hope
then
so.
call it going solid.
If they didn't, like, I don't know. That's depressing. But I think, yeah, I think he did speak about that a bit. But I think that's sort of the point. Like, again, this is a bit of theory. But like, if you go back to the underlying ideas of complexity here, like, we are going to be operating at the boundaries, right? That is just the pattern you see again and again in systems is we push the boundaries, and we, as much as safety people can scream and yell till we're blue in the face that, hey, we shouldn't operate at the boundaries, it just keeps happening. So
what's happening at that boundary, by the way, Ron?
Optimality.
Brownian motion?
Is there anything you should write a paper about?
Do you want me to do you want me to say the
boundary
word?
something or other? I feel like
That's a different boundary.
Joint. I
Oh,
think it's just joints at the boundary.
Yeah, we're having a lot of joints.
At
If
the
they
boundary.
did, maybe there'd be less issues. I'm just saying.
all right.
Um,
I was trying to I wanted to give you an opportunity.
I appreciate that. You're a good man.
But I think there is a point. Sorry, Ron, go.
No. Yeah, but like just to kind of finish it off, it's like we will never be able to. We're always going to have to be at that boundary. So we have to have know kind of where we're at, and B, have the ability to cope and know and respond if and when we step over it. Right, which that's the idea of graceful extensibility. And that's just a fact of life, and it's unsatisfying, but it's just the way our systems continually operate. And we need to adjust for that. I don't know Dave, what were you about to say?
Well,
Yeah, no,
we'll just change the world here.
I think that point about optimality, like as Dave Woods would say, like we're all, and you've said on the podcast a number of times, Ron, once we're adjusting in pursuit of one goal, we're going to be, maladapting towards other goals. And, I think these are the types of conversations that need to happen, in senior parts of organizations, not just zero fatality, safety good, fatality, safety bad. Again,
That's our next shirt.
Yes, safety bad. No, fatality equals safety bad. But you do an equation.
That's called math, motherfuckers.
Math.
We just need like the elevator from The Shining with just waves of blood.
So much blood.
So much waiting. I've been waiting.
Blood. Safety bad.
And then on the back, I've been waiting through the blood to keep you safe.
Yes.
But I think these are the discussions, like, how, again, some of these papers that the people we've spoken about have written, how complex systems fail, and these types of things. And so that, one of the sayings that I like the most is, I guess, another Woods quote in the NASA work after Columbia, where he sort of talks about the time that an organization most needs to invest in safety is the time when the organization least thinks it can afford to do so. And so, boards need to understand that it's not about the safety decisions they make. It's about the other organizational operational decisions that they make to that push safety towards that boundary, and they're going, but we're not having a safety conversation. We're not making a safety decision. You are. You're just not thinking about it as a safety decision. Like another fucking super intelligent organization this week, isn't happy because the number of fatalities it's had. So just decided to sack its top 2 safety people. Like, you guys aren't working out for us. So we're going to get some people who are, and these simple,
who aren't killing people, wading through blood.
But these simple fucking solutions for complex problems, right? Like, organizations just need to stop looking for these simple solutions, or thinking there's a simple solution.
That some of that is societal, right? And maybe that's the bigger challenge. Is it's easy to say, don't be fucking lazy. And the reality is, shareholders, if you're dealing with that sort of organization, don't right? Money equals good, less money equals bad. It is a pretty binary equation. And so I think there's a lot of pressure maybe from that view. And I think it just sucks realistically for the top two safety people that get shit canned because something awful happened.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they didn't.
Yeah, but we've also got to assume that these, and I get the reality of it, live the reality of it, but and at the same time also, these are smart people. You got to assume people sitting on boards for the most part are semi-intelligent people, and executive management are semi-intelligent people.
Probably.
Here's where
Ron's the only one here with a real job.
Episode 20, and Ron gets fired.
Yeah. Oh shit. I mean, yeah, there's totally like super smart. That's what I was correcting you on. They're like fucking geniuses. Is what I meant.
I'm sure they're all Mensa sort of.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I think engaging in these sort of like intelligent conversations around around the systems, and I think challenge yourself. When's the last time you took your executive management through some of these ideas? What does it actually take to get safety right, and how does this work? And what does it mean if we have one event? Does it mean that the whole system's broken? I think there's a lot of, I'm going to say education, but it's just dialogue that needs to happen with with stakeholders.
But I don't think education's a bad word there either, Dave. Acknowledging that people are smart doesn't mean they're smart at everything. And, it's the same way that, I don't know about you, my finance people talk to me like I'm a dog, right? Like I'm just nodding, and like I like to think I'm smart at some things, but that's not it, right? So there is a bit of education. I think that's okay to say, look, the board or the executive team are really good at some of this stuff, probably better than we are. But we're going to have those open conversations about, look, what's it take to translate some of that over to these outcomes you're hoping happen.
But Ben, in fairness to your fucking finance people, when they're sitting across from you going, really? Fucking 3 skateboard decks? Like,
yeah. They're like, okay, we get lover of 0. We're going to need it to be more than 0 this
What
month.
the fuck is happening here?
Yeah, more than 0. More than 0.
Yeah.
I think this is critical because actually, when you're talking, the failure of foresight, like that phrase, I believe was like first came from Barry Turner and his work in Man-Made Disasters. And one of the things he talks a lot about in his,
it's also going to be the name of our band. Man-Made Disaster.
I love that. But like he talks about like a big common theme in the disasters he looked at is the information or lack thereof in various parts. Like people were focusing on some things, they didn't have a complete picture of what was going on. He talks about decoy phenomenon that are kind of drawing people's attention away from where real risk is growing. And I think to me, that's a key part of what we're talking about here. Is it's not that we were doing the wrong things, we were just looking in the wrong direction at that moment, and maybe our focus of attention needs to go in a different direction here. You know what I mean? And like we need to look at, okay, how do we as an organization make decisions about what's important, what's not important, where do we devote our time and attention, where do we, just let it go.
And I think I think information flow is really important, because I think in Diane Vaughan's work, structural secrecy and normalization of deviance and these follow-on sort of ideas is that people aren't breaking rules. People aren't trying to kill people inside organizations. People are just doing things that feel normal, balance out goals, and then fucking bang, right? Something happens. And no one meant for that to happen. No one intended it to happen. From a forward-looking point of view,
those top two safety guys.
No one even anticipated. People rarely even anticipated that it could be a problem.
Yeah.
And then it happens, like, the O-rings or something like that. And then, in hindsight, you go, yeah, okay, the organization had the information they needed, but it wasn't given the right attention. It didn't get to the right person. And this idea that in a lot of industries, there's a saying that we're not inventing new ways to kill people, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's massive though. That flow of information is, if we're going to blame things, and I think it's fair to describe failures of imagination and failures of foresight. You have to have the background components that allow you to exercise some foresight. And we don't get to have those conversations enough because we convince ourselves there's not time to break away from, the monotony of everyday work to do it. And that comes back to that point, right? Of buried in that monotony is the shit that kills us. It's not these magical special things.
Well, we could if we didn't every fucking day have to, support Ben doing his audits or something like that. Our sites.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing, like, inherent even in the question, and I know this isn't what you meant, Ben, but I've been, had similar kinds of
This is a
conversations.
normal Ron conversation. I know this isn't what you wanted
meant,
to talk
but here's
about.
a better idea.
But like, no, so you like what happens when a good
Here's what I'd like to
organization
talk
fails, and like the idea that
I
there
went to
can't
school
be
for
a
11
good
fucking years.
fucking listen more than you, bitch.
That's like a doctor at
Not-
Yeah,
that point.
like
Not
mega doctor.
not in
Yeah.
the aggregate, but I got more than one degree.
Yeah, the
much
high school
doctor.
doesn't count.
The honorary doctorate isn't it.
But so like because what we're describing here is a situation where, let me go back to the conversation with Colette, where, hey, we're surprised that we don't have more of these. We're describing a situation where the environment, where the pool we're all swimming in, it's fucking messy, it's dire, like shit can happen at any time, and we are fucking lucky that we have any semblance of control, but like we'll never have total control. Whereas, I mean, especially post fatality, there's this anxiety that gets kind of just like a tsunami that overwhelms the organization and the people involved about, how do I make this right? How do I, my worldview has completely been crushed. I need to like believe that I can function and not die tomorrow. And so I actually need psychologically a sense of I am in control, right? And that to me is part of the problem that we have, is people will then knee jerk to try to get that sense of control, which is naturally antithetical to what the kind of safety management that I think we all three would say is actually necessary.
Yeah. And that comes back to what
safety stand down, baby.
Stand down. Let's go audit some shit real quick.
Yeah,
but Dave, that really comes back to what you said at the beginning of this, which was, something happens and we kind of recalibrate or replan, right? Now the plan changes. And all of a sudden you've made so many changes, it's impossible to track what's done what or anything.
Yeah.
And we've made this big tangled up mess of whatever we want to call it.
And the interesting one is, I guess, how organizations go about trying to get control, and they try to get more centralized control over the organization. So what can I control? Well, I can control shutting this place down, or I can control issuing new rules and programs. So, I've been on the tail end of getting into organizations 6 or 12 months after, one in particular, after fatalities, and talking to the frontline workers and them just going, this is so fucked. We got these 12 new rules that we can't do our job. And lots of times by trying to take more control at a company level, you actually end up actually making the work less safe. You introduce a far more goal conflicts and tensions and change and necessary, local adaptations just to try to keep things moving, that you actually make things, a lot of times, I'm confident that you make things worse.
I don't think it's a lot of times. I think it's the overwhelming majority of the time. That response to a quote failure by adding more things is almost always counterproductive. Makes it worse, makes it harder to do the work.
We need one of those shirts that says calm down, it was just a fatality. And so, one of the ones with the crown on it, the keep calm, it was only a fatality.
Yeah.
Calm. Calm, it was only a fatality.
Yeah.
There's so many good shit. Like, and then someone's got to help us keep track of these
that on the front, and the back can be the fuck safety make money sort of thing.
Yes.
You can just
Yes.
walk it around. I'm looking for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that. Well, to offend a lot of people, no doubt. But really, there is a need for calm. I was with a mentor early in my career, and we had actually just had a fatality. And this was like a couple of 1,000 miles away from where the head office was. And he was walking around. He was the chief safety officer, whatever the equivalent VP equivalent is. And he was kind of just walking around making jokes. And he was a little bit like, these are in the days before a lot of the contemporary HR policies. And he was showing all the people in the office his football team themed underwear and stuff like this. And I'm there as a pretty young professional early 20s. And we're going, why aren't we like, we've just had this major, it was a rail incident. We just had this major incident, whatever. And he goes, yeah, but nothing we can do. We've still got, a whole operation to run. The local teams on the ground have got what they need. In due course, we'll lean in and give them some support, but there's nothing I can do. And then he said, when the general panics, troops die.
Check out these undies.
No, but from like, military, it's like, when the general panics, troops die. And I think it's really important that organizations go, it's not the time for panic, because you're just going to create more problems in your organization for people. So yeah, there is a certain bit of, it is a time for sort of calm, deliberate, well-informed action in the organization.
Well, which I think what you're saying is really critical, because I think a lot of leaders, at least the ones I've talked to, a good chunk of them have the idea that in those moments is when they need to be strong and powerful and send a message and all this kind of stuff. And I think they end up being the bull in the china shop. And what ends up happening is most of the activities get oriented towards pleasing the leader, not towards learning, fixing this, improving things, and that's just a huge mistake.
Couldn't agree more.
So don't just do something, stand there.
Well, I just think, make sure you've got something interesting to talk about, like underwear or
yeah, clearly. I can't believe we don't have punk rock safety underwear
yet. Yeah, it's a solvable problem. We're just going to need something. Yeah.
Should it be edible?
If you have ideas, if you're still listening, I'm going to assume it's down to about 6 people now.
Yeah.
If you got ideas for underwear, drawers, whatever you want to call them, let us know. Let Dave know. In about 6 weeks, he'll get to it. I've been really slacking on the merch store, by the way. I'll own that one.
That's okay. I've noticed.
Fuck Safety Make Money still hasn't made its way on there, and that's a real letdown.
That's a huge letdown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. I'll do a take 5. Lead that for everybody. Let them know what I've done.
Bit of a recalibration.
There it is.
Retraining. I'll get punished by retraining. It's going to be great.
Well, I don't think, Ben, you've had to do a public apology yet. So, it might be your turn next.
I refuse.
That's a good example of,
Not my problem.
Good things happen to bad people.
Yeah. Blame fixes nothing. Watch this.
Hold my beer.
That's one strategy. I'm single-handedly removing blame from my organization by never fucking apologizing.
That's right.
Like Ron in
can't get blamed if you're never wrong.
Like Ron in SoCal, it's like someone goes, "Hey Ron, hold my cut water."
Oh Jesus Christ, those motherfuckers!
He's healed up nicely.
Yeah, no, I didn't even get a scar. That's some bullshit.
Well, your head's misshaped a little.
That's normal though, right?
Pre-existing.
Octo Ron.
Well, thanks for bearing with my idea here, fellas. I
like this idea.
I think
I love this for you.
I love this for me too. I think it is a struggle though, right? People, especially once you get beyond the folks that are doing safety as as a profession, right?
Yeah.
Or even senior leaders in an organization. There are other folks throughout that just go, look, man, we can't do all of this work and then just keep fucking up all day.
Yeah.
Because realistically, whether they're feeling the pressure directly or sort of imagining it, right? Nobody goes to work. Very few people go to work and go, keep calm, it's just a fatality, right? It's a really impactful thing
Yeah.
in an organization.
Yeah.
But it
and
is a time for
I guess it's the legwork that needs to be put in. You know, we talked about foresight and that's fine, but just in terms of investing heavily as a safety person in your relationships with your senior stakeholders. So in those moments, they actually come and ask you what we should do and listen to what you've got to say. Because if you don't have those relationships before the event, then
it's a bad time to come up with them.
Don't be surprised if leaders run off and do stuff and don't even tell you about it. All right. So, having enough of a trusted relationship that you're the first person they call and they literally ask you, what should we do now? And have some good answers.
Yeah. Well, and I think I 100% agree with that. And I think, one of the things you really want to start to get across is that, like, there is no, like, we are good, we've solved it. We just need to keep doing what we're doing. It's like things are changing. Yesterday's solutions are today's problems. Now the things we
Tell me
implemented
about it, Dave.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're a problem, but that's fine.
Today's
You were a
coffee-
problem
today's
yesterday.
coffee.
We should just get maybe we need a t-shirt called Today that just says today's problem.
Today's coffee is tomorrow's drinking water.
There was a good quote I saw on Miriam Balkan had it on a Slack channel for Ohio State that I think is appropriate for here, and it comes from a guy named Clayton Mullen, who I don't know who that is.
I think that's
Look
for
at Ron with the quotes. I missed a good Ron quote.
Yeah, you like that? It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
We have not succeeded in solving all your problems. The solutions we have found only serve to raise a whole new set of problems. We're as confused as ever, but we believe we are confused on a higher level and about more important things. Which I kind of like that. I think it describes kind of what we're talking about, which it sucks. And again, goes back to the whole idea, like, hey, that kind of paints a really disturbing picture. But
we're going to have to shorten that up somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I know less about more important things than I did.
As confused as ever, but in a better way.
So the takeaways, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, look, it's a very successful. It's a very successful podcast format to do a few practical takeaways at the end.
No one has died, so nailed it.
How was your Thanksgiving, boys?
It was
so good.
It was good. We were close to having a fatality, but we didn't.
In your home or
my mother-in-law actually fell and broke her face. She looked like Rocky at the end of the various Rocky movies.
Was it an accident or did you push her?
Well, I mean, she should really not.
She should have been paying more attention.
Yeah,
we were wrestling, and
if she had cared more, she would have stayed upright. I'll tell you that.
She didn't make my favorite stuffing, and no, it was an accident. She just tripped. Yeah, so she's all right now, but it was a bit harrowing.
I hope so. You're telling the story on here.
Yeah, she's dead.
I have bad news, guys. It really went south quickly.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting that.
Yours, Ben? Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, good. We had family in town. All good, man.
Yeah.
A regular party.
South Africa was good.
I was in South Africa last week. It was educational.
Okay.
For them or you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Dave's as confused as ever, but about more important things.
I was thinking. Oh, look. I mean, I love spending time in different organizational and operational contexts, and a lot of things that we've talked about today just get amplified in different types of situations, right? So, challenging environment to do the things that we would like to do.
That was a nice way of saying he fucking hated it. He's so glad to be home.
This is a challenging environment.
Although
work for a living.
Australia's a very long way away. But with
From
what goes
everything.
on with what goes on in some countries, and your country's not immune from this. It's sometimes nice to be tucked away in a forgotten corner of the world, just living our lives with less confusion.
Whatever has gone on in our country? Don't answer that.
Well, it's done now. Everything's good now.
We're done. Problem solved.
Just like safety. Got there, done. No worries.
Move on.
Minimal fatalities.
Looking forward to the Christmas special, episode 21.
Yes. Episode 21. I'll bring the eggnog.
Oh yeah. We should be like a little Christmas party on here.
All right, we'll do a Christmas party for the next one.
I'm 100%.
All right. So Dave's advice is don't just do something, stand there. Calm your ass down.
Yeah.
It's just a fatality.
Yeah. Well, and I think
take the time to be purposeful.
The other advice,
helpful, well-informed stuff,
is get started now, building those relationships, having those conversations, and starting to show, like, hey, like, yes, we're doing a lot of really good things, but like, what doesn't mean we're invulnerable to failure. Like, there's stuff that's going on today, right now, that could crop up, and how, we need to keep this going. We need to keep pushing. I think that's really critical.
Well done. We solved it, Ben.
Fuck yes.
Before you ask, was that Ben? Was that everything you hoped for from your topic today?
That was a real letdown. No, it's great. I'll wait to get some feedback from our 6 listeners. I think it's a question that people have.
I agree.
And it's one that it's always tough. It's always tough to answer in a way that satisfies the sort of political needs of an organization. And that's, if it were easy, we'd be out of jobs and everybody would have solved this shit already.
Which I think that is another important.
Speaking of being out of a job.
Yeah. Like if anybody's hiring, no, but like, I think as safety professionals, we do need to be mindful of those political needs, in addition to the needs for improving safety and all that. And psychological needs that are going to be in there. And if we don't have space for that, we're going to be really fighting against those other, there's trade-offs post-accident that we have to be mindful of.
It's a good sort of grounded discussion before we leave reality and talk about behavioral safety.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, Ron, Ben sounds like he's looking for a new finance guy, and it was really nice to just kick the behavioral safety can down the road a little bit further.
Episode 21, the Christmas episode.
I feel like that's
alcohol.
A Christmas gift.
Christmas gift.
Yes.
Shit, yes. All right, I love that.
Non-denominational December holiday gift.
Yes. Holiday.
With 6, it doesn't matter, Ben. With 6 listeners, we don't have every minority religion represented.
That's fine. We will now.
Yeah, nailed it.
All right, bye.